All right, welcome back to another episode of my movie review series. Episode 37. Last week I said I was going to do Highlander. Well, I was right. So, yeah, man, let's get to it. Highlander 1986. Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery, Roxanne Hart, Clancy Brown. These are the major players in this movie. And yeah, man, I tell you, this is the mecca as far as soundtracks is concerned because this is the movie that gave us one of the greatest rock bands of all time, one of the greatest bands, period, of all time. This is the movie that gave us Queen. Now, Flash Gordon, that came out before Highlander, and Queen did the soundtrack for that movie, but you know, you can't really go wrong with Queen. You can't, you know. Freddie Mercury, come on now. I mean, once you hear that track, Princess of the Universe, you know, you know, you're in for a rocking good time. You know it. So yeah, man, this movie it starts off with it starts off with the story of the Immortals, narrated by Ramirez, played by Sean Connery, and then you get to hear the song, the one of the best intro songs of all time, Princess of the Universe by Queen. And here we are, born to be kings, we're the princes of the universe. So yeah, man, I tell you, yeah. You go through the entire opening credits sequence. I don't like opening credits in a movie, but if you utilize it correctly, like with this movie, I mean, you got the opening credits sequence, and you hear Freddie Mercury just singing this incredible song, man. Can you really go wrong with it? You can't go wrong with it. You cannot go wrong with it. I mean, I am immortal. Yeah, I tell you, man. And here we are, we're the princes of the universe. Here we belong, fighting for survival. We got to be the rulers of the world. Yeah, you go through the opening credits and you're hearing Queens do that track. And then we get the movie going. Yeah, then we get the movie going. And what is the first thing you see? Any wrestling fan out there, especially if you're an old school wrestling fan, any fan out there would know and appreciate seeing Michael PSAs, strutting down the aisle. leading down the aisle, the fabulous Freebirds. I tell you, man, oh man. Yeah, we at Madison Square Garden, and then there's a wrestling match going on. The fabulous Freebirds, in a 3-on-3 match. 6-man tag. Yeah, I tell you, everybody at the garden going crazy, cheering on the Freebirds, or booing the Freebirds. And no, they weren't the most liked guys at that time. But yeah, depending on who you're talking to, right? So yeah, everybody just getting into the match. All except one person, a man named Connor McLeod. Yeah, he sits there. He sits there and stare. You know, guy behind him, guy behind him, he's on the shoulder. Tell him, you know, tell him how it's, saying something to him. You know, and he sits there, he stares. Guy is on his shoulder, pays him no mind. Yeah, his head's not in the wrestling match. So he goes down to the parking garage because he sensed another immortal around. Next thing you know, he gets into a sword fight with this cat. Real good sword fight. He takes his head right off his shoulders and then win that sword fight. Yeah, then the sensation he's feeling is the quickening. The immortal's life force, all that electrified life force goes into him, takes his power. I tell you, man, yeah, Highlander. Another one of my favorite movies, man. I tell you, the 1980s. Anybody out there, any kid out there that missed out on the 1980s, you gotta fix that. Okay, get your ass on the ball. You know, Netflix, Hulu, um, Voodoo, Amazon, whatever streaming service. You know, if you got a Roku, or Apple Fire, or Apple TV, whatever hell streaming service you got, get on that shit. Look up any, look up any and all 1980s films and get on that shit because you're missing out. Okay, the time I had watching 80s films, it could be the time that you have. And Highlander is definitely one of those 80s films that you gotta check out. I mean, you got Christopher Lambert playing Connor McLeod, Clancy Brown. Any kid out there who knows who Clancy Brown is, well, you may not know who he is by looking at him, but you may know who he is by listening to him, you know? I mean, for me, yeah, he's just as known as doing voiceover work than he doing work on camera. But for me, I know him as the Kurgan in this movie. But I also know him as him voicing Lex Luthor in the Superman animated series and in the Justice League series. You know, that's how I know. I mean, hey, you get your hands on one of those Superman comics, flip through those pages, and you see Lex Luthor. Clancy Brown's voice is in my head. I'm reading him. I'm hearing Clancy Brown. So yeah, man, I tell you, yeah, Highlander, one of those movies you can never sleep on. And most definitely because of the soundtrack of this movie that you cannot sleep on. I mean, Queen did the whole fucking soundtrack, pretty much. You know, pretty much exclusive. You know, even though Queen did the songs, the movie had the score for the movie done by Michael Kamen, who is also known for doing the music for Die Hard and for the Lethal Weapon series. So yeah, that's awesome too. Yeah, I tell you though, man. Yeah, Sean Connery, James Bond himself, playing Ramirez, yeah, McLeod's mentor. You know, it's a little funny seeing that a Scottish gentleman playing a Spanish Egyptian character. But hey, if anybody can pull it off, it's Sean Connery. One of the greatest actors of all time. So yeah, 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 Highlander. What more? What else could I say? You know, yeah, this movie. It's a very dark movie. Not dark as in lighting, anything like that. Dark as in tone. I mean, you got people cutting off each other's heads. With ancient weaponry. But for what I remember hearing a long time ago, this movie was supposed to be much more darker than this. I mean, sheesh, really? So yeah, I'm gonna tell you. Whatever reason why they didn't go for the much more darker tone, then hey, I'm glad you didn't have to. I mean, this movie is just epic enough. But I tell you though, the final fight in this movie though, it's one of those feel good storytelling um, fight scenes, those storytelling ending, yeah, yeah, storytelling fight scene. I was trying to give another word for it, an end fight, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, it's one of the great storytelling fight scenes, though. You know, I mean, yeah, you got the Kurgan. He's swinging with offenses. He's showing his aggression, and with what Ramirez told McLeod when McLeod asked him, how do you stop such a savage? Ramirez replies, with heart, faith, and skill. In the end, there could be only one. And that's another thing about this movie. 40 Immortals, that's their uh, that's their true meaning, the true meaning of living. Because there can be only one immortal. You know, because this is right here. You know, this is the gathering. Yeah, the time in the immortal's life when all immortals are pulled together in one incredible force in order to do battle. And yeah, the gathering is the gathering was upon us, and all the immortals come out the woodwork. Old friends, old enemies, all come out the woodwork because they're fighting for the prize. Now, if an evil immortal wins this prize, then all of humanity will suffer in eternal darkness. But when McLeod, and here's a spoiler for you, when McLeod won the prize, you know, he gave the his his new lady Brenda, Brenda Wyatt, asked him, "Eh, you know, could you could you tell me about the prize?" So McLeod says, it's like a whirlwind. Said, but if you concentrate, you can hear what people sing all across the world. Presidents, diplomats. He can help them understand each other. And pretty much, I think, with the exception of the sequels, I think, you know, now that he has taken he has taken the prize, he is no longer an immortal. He's human because he can now live and grow old and have kids because no immortal could do that. You know, ever. You know, if you're immortal, you cannot have children. Yes, you can grow old, but it can only take time. I mean, Ramirez gave his exact age. Over 2,000 years old he is, and now he has gray hair. So yeah, it only takes time, and that's all you have for if you're an immortal. All you have is time. But then you can still die as an immortal as long as you take your head, take your power, the quickening, which is called. That'll be it. That'll be the story of you. So yeah, but yeah, you have to wonder though. You have to wonder what is it like to live forever. I mean, you can literally go through history. You know, you can live your life, go through history, see it all, do it all, live one lifetime, then move on, live another lifetime, still looking like this, still looking young. I mean, the downside of this will be that everybody around you will be growing old and dying, but you will start over. You go through life being yourself, but in another form, because you're an immortal. You cannot die. You cannot age. Not like a regular human being can. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. You gotta imagine what it's like to do that. I mean, would you like to do that? Maybe I would. I mean, go through history. You get to live through history. You get to see what it's like in the next 70 years. And you're still looking like this. I'm still looking like this. And I can see what it's like in the next 70 years, the next 80 years, 90 years, the next 100 years. Still looking like this. and defending myself with a sword because there's another mortal coming for me, knowing that I can only be a part of that person by taking off my head and taking my power. So yeah, I tell you that's pretty fascinating, really. Immortality. That's one of the things that I'm sure a lot of people out there would like to experience. You know, yeah, yeah. A lot of people out there would like to experience immortality. And this movie right here, this movie, it would give you that. It would give you a nice little sample of that. You know, what one experienced by living life after life, decade after decade, century after century. So yeah, I tell you though, yeah, this movie, yeah, Highlander, one of the best movies that came out in the 1980s, man. Definitely a hit. I mean, spawned sequels, spawned a TV show, a live action TV show, and an animated TV show, and yet people are still. Actually, I think people actually would like to see a remake of this movie. I mean, as cool as this movie is, to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing a remake of it. Yeah. As long as you keep Queen, man, as long as you keep the theme song. Don't put a cover on it like Highlander the Source did. Yeah, that was messed up. But yeah, I tell you though, and the thing is about being an immortal in this movie is that you never take the option of being an immortal. It just happens. You're born with it, you know. And if you die, it's tragic, violent death, you know, that's when your immortality awakens. And unfortunately, you will be feared by others because they seen you die. They will drive you away, just like they did McLeod when they found out that he came back to life. They thought he was in league with Lucifer. They drove him away from his village. He came from the Highlands of Scotland, and they drove him away. He living secluded in isolation with his wife Heather. And Ramirez, one day he shows up and he tell McLeod about his immortality. He trains him, and then he tells him something very important, that he must leave his wife Heather. McLeod didn't listen, and Heather grew old on him, died in his arms. All of this backed by another song by Queen. Who wants to live forever? Oh, when love must die. Just let you know, I will be linking both songs in the bottom, so yeah, you can listen to them all you want. So yeah, I tell you though, it's a very, very amazing movie. Very amazing, very amazing soundtrack, and it just makes you wonder. What would it be like if you lived hundreds of years, still looking like this, still looking very young. Yeah, Yeah, who wants to live forever? Even though here you are born to be kings because you are the prince of the universe. Great summary to this movie. You know, that soundtrack by Queen, I'm telling you. You can never go wrong, Queen. But yeah, I tell you though, man, this movie though, man, I can just sit here, ramble, maybe we'll just talk about it a lot all night. But I'm not gonna do that. And this is not exactly a full-on review, but you know, if you've seen the movie, you know, if you've seen it, you know, if you enjoyed it, then there's nothing for me to review on. You know, I just give my thoughts on it. But yeah, it is a movie review though. So yeah, and that is my review, and I'm sticking to it. Next week, man. Next week I'm going to go back into the horror. Yeah, another indie film, a monster film. Really, it's a monster movie, an indie monster movie, and very enjoyable to watch. I'll tell you about it next week. Now wait a minute. That was the original plan anyway. That was the original plan to tell you about this indie monster film. But that will be in 2 weeks. Next week, on the other hand, I got something big, something real big, and I will be going live once again. Got something real big coming up. Since the 13th will be next week, and it is summer. Unfortunately, the 13th will not fall on a Friday, but I can always repost this certain review on a Friday, the 13th. And that's what I got going on next week. A big Friday the 13th review. Every single one of those films, just with the exception of Freddy vs. Jason, because I did that already. Check right here in the card. But yep, Friday the 13th. A big Friday the 13th. The mega Friday the 13th review is coming next week. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to do the indie horror film. The indie uh, horror monster film. So stick around for that. And keep it locked right here. Because next week, me and a buddy of mine, well, it won't be Alex, but it'll be another buddy of mine. We're going to do Friday the 13th. A big Friday the 13th, the mega Friday the 13th review next week. Yeah, so keep it locked on here for that. And check out my other stuff right here and subscribe to me right here. But in the meantime, in between time, show off.